Broken arm. My
We
broken
are
arm.
live. Hi, everybody.
We're
Anybody
live.
who's
Happy
just
Monday.
joining us. Happy Monday. It is a good Monday. It's a good Monday if you're a Rangers fan. Stressful Monday if you are a fan of several other teams, which we will get into in a little bit.
Yeah. This is a good week. I've been talking about with several people. Everything's coming down to the wire for a lot of teams. It's going to be a very fun and exciting week to watch and see how people do. There's, I think in the upper tiers of teams, we're looking at potential positioning changes. Like there might be hope for us too if the Devils lose. So
I think the Devils have to lose the next two. We have to win the next two. If they go 1-1, I think the way it will break down. There's a scenario where it would have to go past regulation wins because they would be tied on that, and then it would go to regulation wins plus overtime wins, and I think the Devils would still be ahead in that scenario.
Yeah, so
either way, it's not like exactly that far of like an away game, which is good.
I'm not worried about that. It's more the crowd and just the mentality of it all. But at the same time, there is more of a potential between the Canes and the Devils to switch positions too. Although the Hurricanes have one more game to play, and if they lose another, they've been losing like every game. The Devils have been winning, so they're all caught up. So again, let's see what that's us. But there's even tighter races, still in the West.
With only. Well, yeah, for the West especially, and we got into that. If anybody is watching, which they are not, but if anybody is, we do cover a fair amount of analysis of the West Coast on our most recent podcast, which you can find on Apple and Spotify, as well as YouTube, when Matthew, our latest correspondent, and Christine's son gave us an excellent analysis of where things are at in the West, especially where the LA Kings are in the mix of everything.
And we'll definitely have him back on as the playoffs ensue. So I think we wanted to this is the start of the final week of regular season games. And so we kind of just wanted to jump on. Our third co-host is on her way to Calgary, who's another sleeper team trying to kind of make their way into that wild card spot. So she'll
they're super close, although they have a game that Winnipeg and Seattle have a game in hand. Calgary's played 80 games. They're at 90 points. They're just out of the wild card, with Winnipeg and Seattle taking the two wild card spots at 91 points. And then Seattle's already clinched at 98. So it's really between Winnipeg and Calgary. So it'll be a really interesting week for the West. And this is pretty much a do or die for Calgary as well.
So on our side, on the East Coast, one of the things I kept hearing is us watching a couple of the other games. Bruins, okay, congratulations, I guess. Okay, so congratulations, you guys did it. It broke a record in my mind. Whoop-de-doo-de-doo. So, and that kind of goes along with what we were talking about the other day with the amount of goals that are being scored and the way people are playing and stuff. I mean, I also attribute it to some of these teams who really put some of their players on the ice for in extraordinary amounts of time, which gives them more opportunity. So Pastrnak did get a hat trick. So I haven't looked to see how much time he had on the ice, but I'm sure it was a lot more compared to what we do on the Rangers, which we everyone gets less ice time, but it's evened out, and we get more goal scorers around, which, I think is a benefit to us. So anyway, the question I had is, look, we have a tight race at the bottom. It's Islanders, Panthers, and Pittsburgh. And there was talk with some of the commentators this weekend of like Pittsburgh being the one team that they feel can take on the Bruins, but then just kind of like what we were saying, I think Jeffrey was saying it, and other people, don't put the Islanders out. They're scrappy, and they're the team that can take them on. So I don't know what the position is going to be like, but out of the three teams, these three potentials, who do you think would be the most inclined to be able to take on the Bruins and knock them out in the first round?
Okay, I will be honest. I think any team that makes it into the playoffs is very capable of it. And we talked a little bit about that this weekend. It's that, yes, I totally get it. Boston has had an incredible season, record-breaking. They're this phenomenal wall. but the playoffs become a different kind of hockey. I really believe it's a different sport entirely because these matches and each round goes so long. This is not a test of one game. This is a test of series after series. And I do think any of these teams that I'm looking at in the East could potentially take down Boston.
And think of this too. So this is a point that got brought up, which is completely legit. These three bottom teams are fighting for their lives, and they're doing that every game. So here you have these three, one of any of these three potential teams coming in full force, and they're already at this playoff level, just trying to stay there and make it in there into these, into the playoffs. And then you have Boston, who's like, whoop-de-doo, they have an easy schedule. They're kind of cruising right now. So you have that mentality and that level of play that they're going to match up to, like going right into the playoffs. So that makes it even more exciting they're not just wild cards. These guys have been really fighting and playing really well just to get that spot. So.
Yeah, and I think every team is going to lean into what their strengths are. I'm sorry, the dog is very upset.
Well, he doesn't know what to say.
He's not a Boston fan. He feels very strongly about this. But I do think, any team is going to lean into what their strengths are and use that as a defense against Boston. And this is really, the playoffs are really about sort of outlasting, not just outplaying by one game, but it's really outlasting. And I think that anybody could do it. I wanted to ask, what do you think we're going to see in the next two Ranger games? So we have two more left. We are playing Boston today. I'm sorry, not Boston. We're playing Buffalo today, which is Monday, and then we close out the season.
Boston on the brain.
I know.
Work that out. This is a race.
And I'm not going to lie, Boston is scary, and part of this is staying optimistic, staying positive, and I certainly hope that the fans and the teams themselves can also do it. Boston is scary. They have won so many games. They've had amazing goaltending. They've seemed to have this sort of magical season, but again, anything can happen in the playoffs.
The Capitals had that a few years back, and they were out in the first round.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that'll be nice. And and if they're so cocky, which they kind of are, that will be their doom. So, but to your question, look, we're at home, which is great.
Yeah, home for the next two.
Tonight's game, Buffalo's a long shot, but they still have a chance. So they're going to play rough tonight. So I think I saw a comment with kids, on the chat thing where it's don't expect it to be a blowout. Again, I think we should still play conservative, just to, because look, play to win. We're at home. We have the record for all of that, and so I think they'll play well. At the same time, you want to get into that playoff kind of mode.
Yeah.
As all the lovely advice we've been getting from other watchers and podcasters, we'll pass that on to the players because we know them, which is not true.
Clearly, our one listener is Gallant. He must be tuning in just to make sure.
I know.
We see you, Gallant. Thank you for tuning in.
So our little anonymous, we got you covered. But just we're going to leave us a comment right into the locker room to share the advice. So look, I think we're at home. I think the games will be good. Toronto's going to be fun. I'd be more interested. I'd love to. I actually have a friend who's a Maple Leafs fan up in Toronto. We might want to bring him on.
I have another friend too that we'll have to do a little Maple Leafs interview session. Yeah.
So because Toronto's going to be playing Tampa Bay, right? And so that's a given. They didn't do so well against Tampa Bay last time, so it's a similar matchup. It'd be interesting to see what their take is and where they are. Let's see halfway through. It'd be great to have them on to see what they can do. Toronto is now. It used to be the Sharks. The Sharks kind of broke up and traded people. I think now it's Toronto, as the choke team. So I'm not the one who gave it that. I kind of am now, but they really are. They're the ones
they've earned it, really.
Kind of. They have great players. I don't know what doesn't connect with them, to see. I hate the fact that we're in the toughest division. I just hate it. I hate it. So, because nothing's going to be easy. I feel like, Yeah, can we just roll dice and mix up these things next time? I would love a different, group. Why does it have to be based on like where we live, or where the teams are?
I was going to say, if you could change the playoff format, would you change it? And how would you change it?
I mean, why would we not just do the top teams play, play the bottom? I could just do that.
The only reason I can think of it just from a scheduling perspective and just, flying teams all over the country. But I totally agree. I think this format is tough.
Fair that the East or potentially the West could have the best teams, and yet they'll never ever play each other in a Stanley Cup ever. It's really divided, and you immediately omit potential, the better teams. And so it really isn't a true the better teams playing and being able to win, because you've divided up into four sections. So it is the way it is, I guess. It
would be fun to see is maybe someday, you have all the US teams and then all the Canadian teams, and somehow you whittle it down and top US plays top Canada. That I'd be curious to see. That it would be, I don't know how fair it would be or how evenly matched it would be, but I think that would be interesting.
Well, that's an interesting thing that we can definitely look at for next season is, and not too long ago, there really wasn't a lot of American-born players, playing in the NHL. It was mostly foreign, European players, Canadian players. And now we have this great mix, and there's a history, of now, these American players coming in now. And so that's pretty exciting. And, considering that most of these teams are American teams full of non-American players,
We're American. We have to do everything better.
Yeah. And the diversity of the players too, I like to see more of, as well. But that's, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, it was so different. So, it'd be good to get, that's just another history lesson to kind of learn and see, what that means, and then how different styles, I always think Canadian players, I don't know as much as European ones. It's just my guess. But we know Canadian people are born on skates. They learn to play and we were talking about that commercial the other day, and about with the baby, and the guy's like, oh, it looks like you're going to pay for college. And he's like, 26 months old. So, but I feel like that's a true thing in Canada. And if I meet a Canadian who doesn't know hockey, I'm like, what? I'm so confused. Yeah. So, and there's also difference between, growing up as a hockey mom, growing up, my child who was on Friday, there's a difference between East and West Coast youth hockey. On the East Coast, it's traditionally seasonal, and they play in the winter, they go and play other sports. On the West Coast, it's year round. So I've had people during the youth hockey years talk about how a lot of the West Coast teams were actually better and had better players come out.
Because they were just playing more. That's interesting.
Yeah, they were playing all the time. And then they would go off to colleges like Boston College and Michigan and other college, hockey schools, where then they would progress and stuff. So
and then from a European perspective too, I mean, a lot of players are coming from a rink that is not the same size as the one in the NHL. So they've developed different skills. I think that's why we look at a lot of European players and we see very different kinds of stick handling. I think Panarin, we talk often about all of the twirling that he tends to do on the ice. And I will hand it to him. I think he's toned down the twirling a little bit recently. But I think that very much is a product of him coming from, European leagues, over to the US and playing a different style of hockey than we're used to seeing. I'm hoping that he comes out with a great playoff. I think he will. I have very high hopes and high expectations for Panarin as we get to the postseason.
Right, and so we have look, we're coming down to the last two games, the last week of the regular season, and up until I think the end of December, beginning of January, our discussion was, Gallant not performing, Shesterkin not as good as he was playing last year, although I think he's now surpassed his record from last year or have not met it. So in the end, and maybe it's people just jumping to results too soon and spending too much time comparing, which I think they do. You cannot compare these seasons, and because you don't have the same scenarios, you're not playing the same players, and they're older, and wiser, and so you can never. I don't even know what the point of comparing is, but in the end, these players. I think we have 6. Leading goal scorers, like, is it 40 points or something? I can't remember what I just saw. So we're in the top 3 teams with leading goal scorers, with the most players on the team. We still have 2 games to make it 7. Players. We've seen guys break their own records and match or break franchise records. Including your favorite Keandre Miller. So. So in the end,
I've been good.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's funny because there's been a lot of compliments about him. Again, I think he redeems himself. When he makes a mistake, he redeems himself.
I know, and everybody needs to tell me about it every time.
Which is what I like.
If he does anything good on the ice, I get 17 text messages about it.
In a way, I kind of like it. If you're going to bag on him and then he redeems himself, we do well. It's kind of like the same when I see people bagging on a player, and all of a sudden I'm like, keep doing it, because every time you bag on them, they do well and we win. So, but we want to bag on like during.
He must have been our one listener, because now he is gone.
Dang it! Why?
Because he has to go do warm-ups. They're about to play in a few minutes, so we can wrap this up soon. But I think we're in for a great postseason. As you know, I'm going to be away for probably the most of, if not the entire first round, but I'm hoping to be back when we get into the second round and we figure out what that looks like.
We have to do a pajama session. I don't know. We'll do something kind of fun. Pajamas. Like
definitely. I will be,
or t-shirts. Anything that could draw people in, so it might be late night there, early morning here, but we'll find a way to kind of do that through this next round. And then Sarah and I, because what's good about Sarah too, and even though she's going to the game right now when she's not here, is and then we could even have maybe Matt will come on and kind of help us out with the West Coast as we get started here. So I feel this is our last broadcast for the regular season. We made it through an entire season. We learned so much on how to go live and make it work. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of me. I'm proud of Sarah. I'm proud of us, all 3 of us together, that, we've kind of made it through our first regular season. And we'll definitely be broadcasting, I think, more as often as we're able to do so through the playoffs, because there's going to be so much going on. And we're, it's exciting,
It's been so fun. And someone said to me earlier today, like, if you're a hockey fan, this is like, even though not every game means everything, there's so many games that are happening right now that mean so much. So if you're a hockey fan, this is just the best time of the year. It really is. And something that it should be enjoyed and savored.
Let me say something else too. This is the first season with last season was our first regular season out of COVID, but we had delays that kind of interrupted momentum, where it affected the Rangers, where we were winning and we had our game against the Islanders canceled. I mean, we were that close to doing and so it messed us up in a way in which I didn't like. But we still did very well, for where we were last year. And so, and then with Tampa Bay trying to go for like a third, I'm like, I don't like, they don't star these seasons as wonky, like because of some issue. But we have had we might have had a delay of a game. I thought I saw it somewhere with a snowstorm, because we did have crazy weather.
Oh yeah, there was some weird weather, but that was it. This wasn't a season impacted by COVID or anything like that.
But not even a time delay or anything. So this is really, now we're really back to things, and to have it kind of come down in an exciting fashion in not just one area, but everywhere, from the top and positioning to this crazy run for wild card positions where, it's anybody's game this week. I wish best of luck to everybody fighting for everything. And if you're a fan of those wild card teams,
I hope you have your fingernails by the end.
That's all I can say, And I'm worried again, because I want to go to North Carolina. I'm planning on it. I just need a little bit of time, especially since I almost broke my face and my shoulder over the weekend. So I'm going to heal up and get ready to go.
Yeah, we need you in good shape. We need to bubble wrap you too. We need to bubble wrap the Rangers, but we need to bubble wrap Christine.
I know, bubble wrap. I feel like I've just been checked against the board. That's what we're talking about. This is how it feels.
Yeah. If you lose a tooth, you look just like Kako. It's great. Anyway, thank you for everything. Thank you for watching, whoever has tuned into this, and we will keep you posted.
We'll see you in the playoffs, baby.
See you in the playoffs.
Bye. Bye, guys.